Today is Monday, June 4th, 2012. I'm Heath Mulliken, and I want to welcome you to this special edition of the Techology Show. We are live from Wesleyan General Conference in Lexington, Kentucky, and we're hosting a roundtable discussion following all of the business sessions today. This roundtable is brought to you by Kingswood University. Prepare for full-time Christian service by earning a degree in ministry. Feel the heartbeat of Kingswood to become more like Christ. Embrace academic excellence and learn from highly trained, experienced practitioners. Become a passionate missional leader by participating in real-life ministry. Kingswood University offers you the opportunity to create your own degree focus for God's unique call on your life. Kingswood University equips Christ-like servant leaders for global impact. For more information, please visit kingswood.edu. I'm joined, as usual, by David Drury, Executive Pastor at College Wesleyan Church in Marion, Indiana. Dr. Keith Drury, retiring professor from Indiana Wesleyan University. And Stevan Sheets, pastor of Shippensburg First Wesleyan Church in Shippensburg, Pennsylvania. Guys, we just had one of the most historic votes in the history of our denomination. It was Memorial number 345, I believe.
Yep. Yes,
and
correct.
that was to move from 3 general superintendents to 1. And in our chat room, we had 8 votes for. We don't have a scientific vote. 8 votes for, several votes against, 1 abstention.
Wow, that's not binding though. A chat
That
room.
is not binding, and
Okay.
neither is it
Good.
scientific. We had several speeches, but the final tally of the vote, the final result, 61% to 39% to move to 1 general superintendent. I'd love your thoughts on where we go from here.
Into the future.
With 1.21 gigawatts.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, it is historic. Speaking of the history, I mean, this is something that's had a long conversation. Of course, Dr. Haynes, General Superintendent Emeriti, he got up and gave some of the history, and then also H.C. Wilson, who also was a General Superintendent,
Yes.
also gave a history. You might say they had a little bit different histories to present, but with that was an emphasis on the fact that we've had 1 general superintendent or 1 general president in the past. You know a lot more about the history than I do. What's some more of the history to this from a third person?
Well, as far as the news first, it's a done deal. The Wesleyan Church is going to have 1 general
Yes.
superintendent. This afternoon we're going to vote
Right,
on
it's
who
immediate.
That is.
Who
So
that is.
that's the big news. It's going to be. And it's going to be immediate because there were 2 votes. Second vote was to make it effective immediately, which took 2/3, which means since you had 61% voting for the idea, you had to get 5 more percent. You had to have 66% to vote to make it effective right now. Otherwise, we'd had to wait for 3-4 more years before we actually elected 1. But that was a voice vote. They didn't use the so nobody voted against making it effective immediately. So it's going to happen.
You're going to do it now.
Going to do it now. Going to do it now. Yeah, it's historic. It's a shift.
Yeah, it is.
We've had them before. We've had one before,
Yeah.
and we could change in 4 years if we change our mind.
Yeah, and I think that it's interesting. A lot of the debate, I liked the fact that almost everyone wanted the same things.
Yes.
And I think they were summarized well by Ross. The idea of having more responsibility, authority, and more accountability at the same time. Most of the debate was on what functions that. How
Exactly.
do you get more accountability? And so some of it was the finer details. In fact, somebody watching a live stream or even in the room might not have caught how one thing gives you more accountability than another.
Right.
In fact, almost all the debate were on the whereases, which technically aren't a part of the resolution. You
Right.
know?
Yeah.
They would sort of say, will it really do this? Will it really do this? Or whatever else.
Debate on the intentions.
It wasn't as big a debate as I expected.
Right.
A lot of heavy hitters didn't show up. I mean, they didn't speak.
Or they
And
were there
so-
and didn't say anything.
I mean, didn't show up, wave their card and get up and make a speech. So, I mean, there were a lot of arguments for and against that were left on the cutting room floor, never got used.
Out in the hallway.
Yeah.
And that are probably being mulled over right now
Yeah.
as people are breaking for lunch and
It's
have their opinion. Isn't it interesting? I find it interesting that we know opinion that is talked about in elevators, hallways, etc. And my curiosity in driving out here to General Conference was, who's going to be willing to stand before that body and wave their card and make a comment based on their opinion that we are very quickly, and just like our local church family is very quick to have an opinion, but not mention it out loud to a governing body. And so I was pleased that there were for and against comments made, but I'm a little disappointed in the fact that there are those comments that are going to continue to happen, but people aren't willing to make them out loud.
I had 13. There were
13 comments?
I had 13 people debate.
H.C. Wilson, Lee Haynes, Dave Tippie, Harry Wood, Kevin Goss, Chad McCollum, Dr. Pence then responded, Ralph Kerr, Louise Carlton, and Isaac Smith, and then Dan Leroy, Wayne Wager, Greg Reynolds. That's what you got.
Wow, nice list. You should be general secretary of something.
of StevanSheets.com.
One of the comments in the chat room, Dr. Drury, is they want you to define heavy hitter, and I think what you mean is somebody like a H.C. Wilson or a Lee Haynes who has been in that position before, or been in some sort of denominational position. Is that what you meant by that?
Yeah, and Harry Wood's a heavy hitter. Isaac Smith's a heavy hitter, but they were designated batters.
Right.
I mean, they already said you're supposed to get up there.
And they admitted.
I mean, Steve Deneff, the super church pastors.
Our large church pastors didn't get up to speak. But what's interesting is I think many of them are people who who may be the people Greg Reynolds was referring to, meaning that they might be more likely to be our solitary leaders. Of course, they're used to being, none of our megachurch pastors are a committee of 3.
Right.
And so perhaps they felt like, I don't know if I want to say something, because it might look like I'm saying I want to have that job. I wonder if that was some of their motivation. I'll give them a free pass on that. But I did wish they would have spoken, although I've never heard any of them talk for only 10 minutes.
Right.
and that was the governing limit.
Governing limit.
On the message.
And only to speak twice. I thought that was interesting.
Okay, I didn't hear that part.
HC is the only one that used most of 8, 9 and a half minutes.
Were you timing that?
He did time it.
Were you going to stand up and call?
We need a countdown clock.
I've never stood up against HC.
Like it's a three-pointer.
The one thing we talked about was the feeling here. I mean, if you're watching this on the stream, you really can't get a sense of the emotion here. And even though it's tense in the room, anytime you got a vote like this, whether it's a husband and wife making a decision at the kitchen table, there's some tension. But I was so pleased that in all of the remarks there was so much agreement. And it's like you said, David, it's like we all want the same things. I thought that was reiterated over and over. We want to make disciples. We want to reach the lost. We may just have different opinions of the best way to get there, but I love the fact that it did not, there was no spitball throwing. Stevan threw a few at me in here, but I just like that there was this sense of disagreement, but yet unity at the same time.
Yeah, the arguments I got is we need continuity, as Lee Haynes, we need amplified sort of, he argued for a group sort of, one general amplifies weakness.
But they hold each other accountable.
But hold each other accountable. I got that. I got flatten the system, connectivity. We need a spiritual leadership.
Yeah, the spiritual focus was reiterated again
and again. All the values match. Yeah. It's just a debate as to whether they do it. And it's interesting that the GBA and the General Superintendents have this concept that this solitary leader would be able to do it, and apparently 61% of us feel that will get that done. But that's not overwhelming. I thought it would be 60%, so I was a little bit off. I thought 70% 3 weeks ago, so I actually went down the more people I talked to. And but that's not, I wouldn't say that as a mandate to lead in this way, other than to say this is our structure, but it's, we got to make sure that we get accountability, that we get
does 60%,
what do you think about that? Am I off?
I don't think resolutions get mandates. People do.
Yeah.
So vote on people. You can talk about whether it's a mandate or not. I think
we haven't done yet.
I think,
that comes.
Yeah. Right. I think structures. A majority of the people want to do it. You shrug and say,
okay.
A lot of the debate on both sides. HC even said, we don't know if this is going to make a difference or not. He was speaking for it.
61% say from that body, we're willing to try this more than this is the way to go.
Well, I don't know what percent. I'm willing to try it.
Yeah, but if it was 90%,
well, and they're not just saying we're willing to try it. We did that in the pilot program. Yeah. We're saying this is literally printed in the discipline.
Right. No. I know that this is happening.
Exactly.
But by the percentages, is that our denomination is now saying, let's see this take place for the next 4 years, and then
Well, it's just least. we're not changing church law that takes two-thirds vote and goes back to all the districts and goes to all the other general conferences. We're just doing it here.
Yep.
I mean, it's a fair shot, and everybody made it clear this doesn't guarantee that your Sunday evening attendance is going to grow.
Right.
I mean, the difference in your Sunday, whether you even have a Sunday evening. Okay.
I think two of the things that I think were huge were real big concern about the amount, and of course, right after this voted through at 61. There was the big debate on the job description of the general superintendent.
And we paused.
We're still in
If
that.
you had voted on, is this job seem somewhat impossible? I think there would have been unanimous support.
Yeah.
But then again, if you read the existing job description of general superintendents, it seems impossible as well.
Right.
And a committee has to approve everything.
The monotony of the conversation that was beginning to grate on me was the against conversations, the against comments where this is impossible for one person to do. That's not up for debate. That's obvious, and that was said out loud.
Yeah.
It's obvious that the job description is not for one person. That's not what was up for vote. It was, can we have the leadership who designates? Can we elect the leader who can do it? And I think it's going to be very exciting what happens from here on out.
Well, and I think that they're going to continue to debate it after lunch.
Right.
But the whole idea of how do you actually get this stuff done and drilling into the details of the job description. The other thing that I heard a ton of was a sense of how do you actually give accountability to that person. And it sounds as though everybody's wanting to say, we want to see results. We want to see this. And I think there's a general sense that we haven't had enough of that. Tell me, I know a story about you that I'd love for you to tell, because there was a time in which we had 4 general superintendents. We moved down to 3, and you were there. When was that?
In the 90s sometime.
Yeah.
Yeah, I made a speech and said it's moving in the right direction, 4 to 3. I've kind of been in favor of single general superintendent since 1972, and that's when I went to headquarters. And I lean to a single general superintendent. I think this is where it makes the biggest difference, at headquarters.
Yeah. We're going to take. Go ahead.
At headquarters is where it makes a big difference. It makes a little less the further away you get from it. At headquarters, it makes a big difference.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
We're going to take a quick break, and again, we want to thank our sponsor, Kingswood University, and they've got a quick message for you right now. That video in this roundtable brought to you by Kingswood University. Prepare for full-time Christian service by earning a degree in ministry. Feel the heartbeat of Kingswood to become more like Christ. Embrace academic excellence and learn from highly trained, experienced practitioners. Become a passionate missional leader by participating in real-life ministry. Kingswood University offers you the opportunity to create your own degree focus for God's unique call on your life. Kingswood University equips Christ-like servant leaders for global impact. For more information, please visit kingswood.edu. One of the other things that happened in that session was the call for an open vote. I'm just going to be. I claim ignorance. They struck something that was into discipline on how to elect general superintendents because we weren't electing as many general superintendents. Right. And if I understand correctly, it will be an open ballot that names will be taken. Will there be nominations from the floor, or will be, just write somebody's name down? Mullikin is Mullikin.
Yeah.
Sheets without a Z.
Well, I think this is within the whole concept of providing more accountability.
Yeah.
Because we have had this sense in which once they were in office, you just vote up and down. And I think there's been some sense of in the past at general conferences where people felt like, okay, you don't want to vote no against somebody.
Right.
And it does give us that. The other really helpful thing is it helps us know who's in development. I mean, who are the people because somebody will be elected here this afternoon. But you'll be able to see who are the other people are thinking about over the next 20 years.
A list for us to look at again in 4 years.
Exactly, and it helps us know, whereas before you just never knew.
And that's been one of the biggest questions we've seen in the chat room is, yes, we understand that right now in our current system, Joanne Lyon is a great leader, and most people are thinking of her as that singular leader, or a lot of people. But people are thinking,
in the pilot program,
right.
she served as the chair.
Right, and so she's been doing that job, and so people are thinking, well, who's next? I mean, Joanne Lyon is not going to live forever on Earth in any way. So who's next? And I do think that open ballot will give some sense of that. But also there's a call for, well, she's got to groom whoever's next. Whoever, and that's the thing that I would say from every level in the church. There has got to be a better job of making apprentices, making disciples, but handing off the leadership. It's hard for a church to grow when you have a pastor for 5 years and then you're bringing in somebody from 3 states away that no one's ever met.
I think the GBA with this new system will be able to bring at every general conference a whole list of people who have been vetted instead of it just being a floor nomination. You have thoughts on that?
Well, maybe we ought to explain, just in case we haven't made it clear, an open ballot means everybody gets a piece of paper and you write the name down of any ordained Wesleyan minister.
Right.
And then they'll collect all that. They'll take it in. That's what we're really talking about here.
And they're bringing those ballots to this table, I believe.
We'll be counting them.
I'm just joking.
I think they're a different color, Stevan.
You have to be able to count for that to happen.
I personally don't know about, it's the job of the general superintendent to groom the next general superintendent.
Right.
Any more than a senior pastors, all the super church picking their successors. That don't always work out.
Right.
I think
True.
the church grooms leaders.
Yeah.
And we're going to see who's already groomed.
Right.
I mean, I can think
we have several people could do this
I think of 7 or 8 people
Yeah.
right now that could take the job. I mean, that have pastored churches and DSs who could do it. So I think the church grooms those leaders. But on first ballot, my hunch is there will be a lot of people who might vote for Joanne Lyon, but actually on the first ballot might vote for who they want next time.
Right.
To sort of so they see that name,
Right.
and then second ballot switch to her.
Yeah.
It might be healthy for us to have to vote more than once.
Yeah.
In that regard.
Yeah.
How will that vote? How will that vote have to be? 2/3 on this.
51%.
51% on the number one name.
As soon as they get a majority, they'll be in.
They're elected.
How many delegates do we have? Has anybody said
350, I think, something like that.
You know
About
the number?
350.
I don't know the number.
that? I haven't heard it publicly, so I need to.
I think
I need
told
to go out
there
to the
would be no
hallway and
math.
start
it's
talking to people.
About 350.
How
So
many buttons did I print?
I don't know. One of the other things that's been brought up in the chat and in discussions is, this vote affects so many other things. A lot of people are fearful for that because we have a lot of really good people in leadership right now, and they're worried, well, we're going to get people in the right place, and how do we do that? And that's all going to be debated and talked about this afternoon. Right now, where we stand as far as the official business is we are going through the official duties of what would be the general superintendent. A motion was made to strike a couple of those, I believe number 27 and 43,
Paragraphs 27
and which deals with different
The job
things.
description.
There was a motion. I'm not sure if the motion got support, and that's where we went to break.
It did have support.
It did have support. Okay, motion with support. So that will be
Discussed.
voted on, and continued discussion following.
A comment on
Following
that,
the
I'm
break.
not sure I would love to be the kind of person that has 350 people deciding the language of my job description.
Yeah.
That's some of the situation here we've got to realize is that getting agreement on every line is going to be difficult.
Yeah.
And so some of it is just saying, there's one leader, okay, let's follow that person, whoever that may be.
But this is the job description for a position, general superintendent. And as I think it was Reynolds that said, you're a leader, you don't do all these things.
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
it's a 12-stone pastor has to
Right.
do everything. It's a one person job.
Right.
And you piece it out.
Administrate the nursery
Exactly. But order the
with
fish
7
crackers.
staff.
Well, everybody knows the pastor's wife is supposed to administrate the nursery.
Husband.
man.
Husband.
Wow.
Well, my wife does. So. Does your wife administrate the nursery at your church?
My wife
You just lost a
administrates
lot
me.
of votes for general superintendent
Well,
right there.
hey, I'm not.
Just so you know,
I'm not.
You might not even get one right in.
No pastor's wife is going to vote for me.
Yeah.
They're not watching this. We're good.
But this was to me, it's going to be interesting because, I mean, let's be honest. This was the big one. It's the first thing.
Yep.
I'm just so. There's a lot more that's going to happen because you got the whole voting on the realignment, I believe, and then we're going to have to vote on the 4. If there's going to be 4 below the 1GS,
Right.
who those people are going to be.
Executive directors.
So,
they're called.
yes, executive directors. So if you just tuned in and thought, well, that's it, we're good,
no.
I can go mow
It's
the
just
lawn.
it's
No,
just beginning.
It's just getting
The
started.
next big vote will be the who.
Yeah.
That will
And
be noteworthy.
you can join us again. We're going to be in our chat room. You can join us and be a part of the discussion and engage in that. And we will be right here following the afternoon business session. And then again this evening, don't forget, thetechnologyshow.com. Once again, I want to thank our sponsor today, Kingswood University, kingswood.edu. This is Heath Mulliken. And for our panel, we say God bless, and we'll see you later.